Yep. All right, so gang, this will be 1-7 over the distributive property. This will be the last lesson that we're covering in chapter 1, and we'll have a quiz over the 3 sections we will have covered at that point: 1-1, 1-2, 1-7. Now, the distributive property, we have kind of worked ahead a little bit on that because we've seen it a little bit on our DMR. So that will hopefully, you know, you are already kind of ready to go on that. Vocabulary, we're still not doing anything with that yet, so don't worry about the vocabulary terms just yet. And then our learning target is we want to be able to use the distributive property to simplify expressions. Okay. All right. So example 1, we are going to simplify just using the distributive property. Okay. If you guys, I don't use like the little cherry stem looking things. If you guys want to do that, if that helps, use them. I just usually don't. So you do it either way, whatever helps. So on A, we're going to take -3 times x to get -3x. And then -3 times -8. So that's going to be a plus, right? Multiply 2 negatives, you get a plus. And that's 24. Okay. Don't write -24. Just write plus 24. Okay. So -3x plus 24. Any questions on that one? All right, and we say that's simplified because we went from like 3 terms, a -3, an x, and a -8, down to 2 terms. Okay, that's why we say we've simplified it. B looks a little bit different, but it's not. Okay, so just like addition is commutative, so is multiplication, because like 1 times 3 is equal to 3 times 1. So what I'm telling you here is, you know, if you get confused because they put the 1 term at the rear, you can think of it as, so this is the same as -7 parentheses 5b minus 4. Okay, so the order makes no difference. And since we usually put the variable term first, this is kind of the order I'm gonna write my answer in. Okay, so -7 times 5b is going to be, can anybody tell me what's -7 times 5b? Yes, Abby. -35b, very good. And then what about -7 times -4? Yes. 28, very good. So it's positive, so we put plus, so plus 28. All right, so -35b plus 28. Now we do have a fraction, so here's where your calculator might help. Also, another thing happens here that's a little bit weird. So anyways, 12t times 3. That part's easy enough. That's just going to be 36t. Now, let's not worry about, well, yeah, let's go ahead and worry about the coefficient part first. So if you have your calculator, or if you just know how to multiply fractions, can anybody tell me just what 12 times -1/6 is? Just focusing on the numbers part of it. What's 12 times -1/6 as a number? If you don't know, just type it in. Try to type it in. Anybody got it? 1/6 of 12. What would that be? Come on, somebody can type it in. Yes? It is 2. Yes. All right. So in this case, it would be -2. All right. So we put -2. Now we also have multiple t's being multiplied together, right? So this would be equal to -2 times t times t, right? How do we usually say t times t? Or what's a cleaner way to say that? Anybody know? Yes? T to the second power. That's right. So that term overall is -2t to the second power, or -2t squared. Okay, so this would be correct. You might also see this written as, you can flip the order around. So it could also be written as negative 2t squared plus 36t. I don't think you'll have to worry about that on your Math Excel, but a lot of times we'll put that highest degree term first, okay? Any questions? All right, so may want to get your calculator. I guess I should have had you guys get out your calculator. So if you have it, grab that and try to work D, E, and F at least as much as you can in the next 2 minutes. Compare answers with people around you, because I may call on you for one or more than one of these, okay? So feel free to chat around, talk to people around you. If you need a calculator, you can come get one real quick, but the clock's rolling, so just try to get that one thing. And again, guys, feel free to ask your neighbor what the answer to something is. If for no other reason, in case you get called on. Get used to using your neighbor as a resource. That could be a good one. All right, so since D has a fraction in it, I'll be a little nicer and I'll see if I can get a volunteer. Can I get a volunteer to answer example 1D? Abby? That's it, negative 7.5 or negative 7.5 x plus 6. Here is how, and I would even write this down, even if you had that right, I would write it down this way as well, just because a lot of times in Algebra 1 we'll leave our fractions like this. So you could also write that as negative 15 over 2 x. So that's equal to negative 7.5. Move this over a little bit. And then plus 6, okay? So leaving it this way, this shows you how you might be able to come up with that even without a calculator, right? Because what am I doing here? Really, I'm just taking negative 3 times 5 to get negative 15, and then keeping my denominator the same. That's really all I'm doing, okay? That might be an easier way to think about that. Any questions on that one? All right, so I'm going to call on you guys for E and F. So we'll see how long it takes us to come up with the correct answer. We'll see how that goes. All right, Jalen Miller, can you tell me what you got for E? All right, very good. 1.2 plus 3.3C. I'm just going to flip the order, but your answer is correct. That's very good. So I'm going to write it as 3.3C. You don't need to switch it if you wrote it in Jalen's order, which most of you probably did, plus 1.2. 1.2 plus 3.3C is also correct. So very good. Any questions on that one? All right. And then the last one might be a little bit tricky at parts. You guys are handling everything well so far, though, so. And I'm looking at my notes. I'm realizing that I even made a mistake on this one, so I'll have to correct that before I attach the notes for you guys. All right. Cameron, did you get, what'd you get for that last one, F?
Negative 2y squared plus y.
Perfect. Very good. Negative 2y squared plus y. Nailed it. All right. So just remember, or you might even want to note this. Try not to make it too like sloppy, but you know, sometimes people get a little bit confused when there's no written coefficient. But you might want to note that negative y is the same as negative 1y, negative 1 times y. That's a good thing to know. And if you already know that, then don't write it down, or write it down if you think that might be helpful. Okay. Any questions before we move on? Really, this is the main example from this lesson. So if you feel good about those, you're in pretty good shape. Okay. So let's try these next couple. So rewriting these expressions with multiple things over a single denominator, right? So how could we rewrite these in a different way? The answer is that you can split them up into two fractions. Okay, so 7x plus 2 over 5 is equivalent to 7x over 5 plus 2 over 5. Okay, I think there's one or two on Math Excel that you have to split up like that. All right, now I would write this down off to the side as well, because this is also good to know. Another way to write just this part, so 7x over 5 can also be written as 7/5 times x. Okay, and again, that seems like maybe insignificant, but it's not. Knowing those types of things when we're solving equations is important, right? So that this can be written like that. All right, that's important later. You know, as we get into more complicated things. All right, so looking at B, we could split that up as 4 over 8 minus, let's write that as 2/8 x. Write it the kind of the different way. All right, now Math Excel, if you enter that into Math Excel is going to say that your answer is equal to the right answer, but it's not simplified, right? Because why? What can I do on these? Yeah? Change 4/8 to 1/2, and I can also reduce the other one. So what would 2/8 reduce to? Yes? 1/4. All right, so we need to reduce our fractions. I'm also going to flip the order, not that you necessarily need to, but I like to have my higher degree term first. So I'm going to write that as negative 1/4 x plus 1/2. So I flip the order and I reduce my fractions. Okay. Questions? All right. I want you guys to try the next one. Compare answers, all that good stuff. You got 4x minus 16 over 3. All right, can I get a volunteer to answer that one? Just two, what are my two fractions here? No reducing or anything else, so yes. Very good. 4/3 x minus, what was it, 16? Just 16? 16 over 3, there you go, 16 over 3, very good. You could have also said, and this is correct too, 4x over 3 minus 16/3. So either one should work. Okay. Any questions before we move to the next example, Abby? Mm-hmm. So yeah, just on B, what I did is I put this term out front since it had the x. Okay. So this minus stayed with that. All right, and then I put this term last. Okay, so I flip-flopped the order there. So good question. Okay, yeah, did a little bit more there. Okay. All right. Next one. So what happens when you have a minus outside a set of parentheses? A lot of people tend to miss this, okay, when we have to distribute a negative, but basically what you want to do is treat that minus sign like times -1. All right, so I would write that out. So I would just say same as -1 parentheses 2y minus 3x. So if I multiply or divide anything by -1, what happens to it? It just flips the sign. Negative becomes positive, positive becomes negative. Okay, I don't change the absolute value, so it's really easy. All I do is just flip the signs. Okay, and guys, if you're on your Chromebook right now, you're doing the wrong thing. So shut them, or at least get your eyes up here. So what we're going to do here is have minus 2y because it was positive, and then plus 3x because it was negative. So all you do is just flip the signs. You can't combine those because they're not like terms, so that would be my final answer there. Okay. And then B, again, multiplying everything by -1. Positive A becomes negative A, plus 5 becomes minus 5. All right, so you try the next one. You've got negative, or the opposite of the quantity -x plus 31. We're going to end up with some good work time at the end of the day. We're on it today. All right, just final answer is all I'm looking for here. All right, Lopez, what you got? Yes. X minus 31. That's what the judges were looking for. That is correct. Does anybody have any questions? Yes. Is it not on there? Okay, I'll recheck that. Okay. Yes. It's possible that I didn't any like late additions and stuff. I may have used an out of date list. So yeah, let me know if you don't see yourself, and I'll. Doesn't take any time to update it. All I got to do is type it in there real quick. So thank you. All right, example 4. Let's just go ahead and let me just show you one of these, but you can either write it down or skip it. This is not on Math Excel. It won't be on a quiz. This is just kind of a cool mental math trick. Like, this is something that I might use out in real life, but you're never going to be tested over. So you can kind of use the distributive property to kind of figure out something like 8 times 495. Okay, in your head, right? Obviously, we all have cell phones. We could just punch it in real quick if we were buying 8, whatever's for 495. But how could you do that kind of in your head? Kind of get a good idea in your head. So, basically what you could do is come up with 2 easier numbers, than $4.95, right? So you could rewrite that as $5, right? Because it's really close to $5 minus 5 cents, okay? Because 5 minus 5 cents is equal to $4.95, right? So if we did that, then in our head we could probably come up with 8 times 5 is 40. And then, if 8 times 5 is $40, then 8 times 5 cents is 40 cents. Right? So then, and again, in our minds, we could know that it's $39.60. Like I said, this is nothing you're ever going to be tested over, but just kind of a cool way to think about these. I'll tell you when I really use like a mental math trick in real life, maybe not in this scenario, which I have used this, but when I really use it in real life is like when I'm coming up with a tip for a waiter or a waitress. then that's where I really end up using mental math in real life. Anyways, let's skip the rest of those and get to the more important stuff that you're going to be tested over. Let's do a few together, then I'll give you guys 3 to work on. So this is combining like terms. This is distributive property, so a little bit of a mix of everything, okay? So I want you to write down this kind of definition. Like terms, let's just say they have same variable. Bless you. That's the obvious part. That's the part we all think of, but I want you to add this as well. They have the same variable with the same exponent. So you'll see why I add that in as we start to work through these, okay? All right, so looking at the directions on Math Excel is just going to say simplify this, okay? And we've worked a little bit of this on your DMR too, but combining like terms. So to simplify, we want to rewrite 8x squared and minus 2x squared as a single term, right? We want to add them together, right? So all we're really doing, math part of it, is we want to know what's 8 plus negative 2. So what's 8 plus negative 2, or 8 minus 2? Yes? 6, right? So we would rewrite that as 6x squared. And then, you have your plus 15 that doesn't get added on to anything, so it just stays plus 15, okay? And again, we've simplified because we went from 3 terms down to 2, okay? Let's do a couple more. All right, looking at the next one, we have a 5x and a minus 3x that we need to write as one term. Just blurt it out if you know what it is. What's 5x plus negative 3x? 2x, good. Then we have, I'm going to run out of shapes here. We have 6y that doesn't go with anything else, so that just stays plus 6y. And then finally we have, what should we do for those? Triangles, I guess. Minus 3 and plus 4. What would that be? What would the sum of those two be? 1. Very good. So plus 1. 2x plus 6y plus 1. Order is not going to matter there, right? That could say, 6y plus 1 plus 2x, right? The order doesn't matter, but the signs will matter. Okay. All right. So last one we're going to do together. Then I'll have you all try 3 similar, and that will conclude it. So step 1 on C is to distribute. Okay. So we distribute. We get negative 15a minus 20. And then we want to combine like terms. So my question for you is, are there any like terms? There are no like terms. A and a squared aren't like terms, okay? So really this is a final answer, okay? You don't have to write this part down, but a lot of times you would see this written out as 15a squared minus 15a minus 20. That descending order. Don't really worry about that too much right now, but a lot of times you'll see that written that way. All right, so D, E, and F are yours. They might be a little bit trickier. They are a little bit trickier, but sometimes that's good to try to do a little bit tougher stuff after you see some easier stuff. Get help from people around you, okay? And then we'll go over, okay? We'll go over them to finish up, and I'll give you a few minutes to work after that. All right, on F, as you get done, D and E are already up there. We can talk about them after the timer. On F, I'm going to treat that like kind of a bonus question. So as soon as you think you have a right answer for F, raise your hand, and the first person who gets it right, I'll give you just a little treat. Nothing huge, but. And you can skip to it if you'd like. If you think you can work F. Have to get it done before the timer, though. Yes? That's it. We got our winner. Good job. How'd you like a piece of gum? That work for you? All right. Good job. I'll get better prizes as we go. I just am not there yet in my shopping and in my life yet, but we'll get there. We'll get going. All right, so guys, look them over real quick. Look over D and E because we haven't talked about those yet, but they're up there. So look those over, see if you have any questions here. I will tell you, if you didn't get 48B plus 7, 99% of people who kind of know what they're doing but mess up will mess up on this term, right? Well, kind of maybe both of these terms, right? Because sometimes we don't think of minus 10 as negative 10. So here, if you messed up your signs, make a mental note that I'm distributing a negative 10 there, okay? And then beyond that, it was just a two-step problem. So we distributed, and we combined like terms, okay? Anybody have any questions for me before we put a lid on this one? All right. Let's go ahead and say it's break time. If you want to take like a 3-minute break, and then we'll try to finish maybe 1 or 2 problems before we go home. No, we're not going home yet. You guys will leave and then say, Mr. Jenkins said we could leave. Yeah.